Recent geopolitical events have seen significant developments, particularly with China. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi addressed the UN General Assembly, reaffirming China's commitment to global peace through dialogue and mediation. He emphasized that China seeks to play a constructive role in resolving conflicts, promoting peace, and discouraging actions that exploit global tensions. Wang highlighted China's partnership with Brazil and other Global South nations in launching the Group of Friends for Peace, aimed at fostering consensus for political solutions to global crises. Regarding the ongoing Gaza conflict, he described the Palestinian issue as a deep wound to human conscience and called for an immediate ceasefire and the implementation of a two-state solution. He stressed that the historical injustices faced by the Palestinian people must no longer be ignored. Wang also addressed China's opposition to unilateral coercive measures, such as sanctions, calling on the United States to lift its blockade and sanctions on Cuba. He noted that such tactics do not provide advantages, and that global cooperation is essential. Moreover, Wang reaffirmed China's commitment to green development, stating that the nation aims to achieve carbon neutrality and peak carbon emissions within a historically short time frame. He also stressed the need to honor the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and urged global implementation of the Paris Agreement on climate change. In terms of global governance, Wang supported UN reform, emphasizing the need to increase representation and voices from the Global South. He called for the organization to address the legitimate concerns of developing nations. In other news, China is conducting military drills in the South China Sea, as confirmed by the People's Liberation Army's Southern Theater Command. The exercises involving air and naval forces are taking place near the disputed Scarborough Shoal. These maneuvers follow a recent meeting between Wang Yi and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, during which Blinken raised concerns about China's destabilizing activities in the South China Sea. Wang responded by criticizing U.S. interference, stating that China seeks peaceful resolution through dialogue with concerned nations. The timing of China's military drills coincides with joint maritime exercises planned by Australia, the Philippines, Japan, New Zealand, and the United States in the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. These developments come after the Philippines accused China of deploying its Coast Guard and suspected maritime militia aggressively in disputed areas. Despite a 2016 ruling by the Permanent Court of Arbitration rejecting China's sweeping territorial claims in the South China Sea, Beijing continues to assert sovereignty over disputed areas, including the Scarborough Shoal. The Chinese military remains resolute in defending national sovereignty, maintaining peace, and safeguarding its maritime rights in the region. A report from a Beijing-based think tank revealed that military activity in the South China Sea is intense, with warships from various nations spending over 20,000 days annually in the region, and U.S. Navy ships alone accounting for 1,600 days. Despite international legal rulings, the South China Sea remains a critical hotspot for geopolitical tensions. China's involvement in global conflicts has intensified, positioning itself as a key mediator in various regions. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi recently called for a comprehensive ceasefire in Gaza and reiterated support for a two-state solution, following the killing of a Hezbollah leader by Israel, which raised concerns about a wider regional war. Wang emphasized that the Palestinian issue is the biggest wound to human conscience and called for an immediate resolution. This aligns with China's increasing diplomatic efforts in the Middle East, including hosting talks in July between Palestinian factions, such as Hamas and Fatah, in Beijing. These efforts reflect China's ambition to take on a larger role in mediating conflicts, potentially rivaling the traditional influence of the United States. China's influence has also been evident in its brokering of the March 2023 deal that ended the diplomatic rift between Saudi Arabia and Iran, a move that sidelined the United States in a region where it has long been a dominant player. In Ukraine, China, along with Brazil, has proposed new peace talks involving Kyiv and Moscow. This initiative, however, has faced skepticism from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who expressed concern over the need for alternatives to his own peace plan. Wang Yi, responding to these concerns, stressed the importance of avoiding escalation and promoting de-escalation as quickly as possible. Russian President Vladimir Putin welcomed China and Brazil's involvement as potential mediators, though the United States remains wary, pointing to China's alleged military assistance to Russia. On the topic of Taiwan, Wang Yi reaffirmed China's stance on reunification, declaring that the complete reunification of China will be achieved and that Taiwan will eventually return to China's control. Beijing maintains that it has sovereignty over the Taiwan Strait, a major global trade route, but the United States and Taiwan assert the waterway is international. In economic news, tensions are growing between the European Union and China over electric vehicles. The EU is considering imposing tariffs of up to 45% on Chinese-made EVs, with a decision expected in early October. The European Commission is likely to propose tariffs of around 35%, in addition to the standard 10% duty on car imports. In response, China has suggested setting minimum prices for EV exports to avoid high tariffs. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce has indicated that both sides are negotiating a price commitment agreement with the goal of reaching a consensus before the final ruling. Several EU member states have expressed opposition to the tariffs, with Spain calling for the avoidance of a trade war. For the EU to block the proposed tariffs, at least 15 countries representing 65% of the EU population must oppose them. Meanwhile, China has retaliated by launching anti-dumping investigations into EU pork and dairy imports, further escalating trade tensions. Meanwhile, China's relations with Japan have also become more complex amid leadership changes in Tokyo. Following the election of Shunryu Ishiba as Japan's new prime minister, China has called for a stable and healthy bilateral relationship. However, tensions remain, as China has increased military activities near Japan, including large-scale exercises near the Sea of Japan, and test-firing an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean for the first time in 40 years. Japan has raised concerns about these actions, labeling China's military activity as a serious issue. Beijing, under President Xi Jinping, has bolstered its nuclear capabilities, with estimates suggesting that China could double its nuclear arsenal to 1,000 warheads by 2030. In economic shifts, China is reducing its imports of United States corn while increasing its stockpiles of gold and selling U.S. debt. Last year, China imported over $5 billion of U.S. corn, even though it is the world's second largest producer of the crop. About 75% of China's corn is used for animal feed, as the country's growing middle class consumes more meat. However, China is working to reduce its reliance on U.S. corn, which has significant implications for Sino-American trade relations. Corn is a critical part of U.S.-China trade, not just as a food staple, but as an industrial material for products like corn oil, starch, and biofuels. While the U.S. has historically supplied large quantities of high-quality corn at low prices to China, recent trade wars, tariffs, and policy shifts have complicated this relationship. For example, during the 2018 U.S.-China trade war, China imposed tariffs on U.S. corn, leading to a sharp decline in exports and causing American farmers to lose access to a key market. China has since turned to alternative suppliers like Brazil and Argentina, dealing a blow to U.S. corn producers. China's domestic corn production has been hindered by issues such as soil pollution and reliance on inefficient farming practices. The Chinese government has been working to modernize agriculture and reduce its dependence on foreign corn, though it has faced challenges in embracing genetically modified crops. While China has allowed imports of genetically modified corn, particularly for animal feed, it has banned domestic farmers from using such seeds. As trade tensions with the U.S. have escalated, China has intensified efforts to diversify its trade partners, creating more competition in the global corn market and reducing its dependency on U.S. exports.